Africa.
Good afternoon and welcome to Salam Media Highlights. We're going to be turning our attention now to Mozambique. I think Mozambique has been grabbing the headlines for most part of the second part of the year, I think since the elections. It's a place where the political landscape has been rocked by waves of deadly protests. This is following that contested presidential election results. Opposition leader Venancio Mondlane has rallied his supporters to continue demonstrations against what he calls a deeply flawed and rigged electoral process, sparking violent clashes with security forces that have tragically claimed at least up to date confirmed 67 lives, including children. And to help us unpack this implications of this arrest, the human toll in the road ahead for democracy in Mozambique, we are joined by Andre Mulungo. He's a human rights officer at the Center for Democracy and Development, and he has been monitoring the situation quite closely. Andre, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate you giving us your time this afternoon.
Thank you. Good afternoon for you and for your audience. It's a pleasure for us to be here and to share with you again and with your audience what is going on in Mozambique since 21st October, when Venancio Mondlane, the presidential candidate, called the demonstrations against the electoral results that are considered fraudulent results.
Andre, I think maybe you can start by giving us just a brief overview of the current situation in Mozambique right now. You are out in Maputo yourself. How widespread are these protests, and what has been the response from the authorities? Is what the world is seeing on social media what's actually happening on the ground? Are people being shot with live ammunition? Are people being ran over by literally police and army vehicles? Just give us a sense briefly of where we are right now.
What we have now in Mozambique is a crisis of is a political crisis, but also a human rights crisis. Why? Because a demonstration is a right here in Mozambique and everywhere, and based on that right, the Mozambicans since 21st October, as I say, came out to the street and are demonstrating, demanding electoral justice. But the response of the authority, specifically from the police, have been violent response. Because of that response of police, now in Mozambique we have 88 citizens killed by the police. We have 100 people arrested by the police, and we have also 100 citizens injured by the police during the demonstration. 88 citizens, as I say, has been killed from 21 October until yesterday. Only yesterday, police killed 12 citizens in Gaza province, in Inhambane province, in Maputo city, and Nampula and Sofala and Manica also. Those 12 citizens was killed only yesterday. So the response of police is a violent response, and the scenario now in Mozambique is not good. What you see by the media is what we are living here. We have police all over the corners here in Mozambique, but we also have militaries. But what is happening is that militaries are not involved in violating the human rights, are not involved on beating people, are not involved on arresting people. The one that are involved in human rights violation are the police. The police are serving the interests of the regime here in Mozambique. So we are living in a non-precedent crisis of human rights. It's a political crisis, but also is a human right crisis.
Definitely. I want to touch a bit on those peace talks, if I can put it that way, where President Philip Nyusi invited Mr. Venancio Mondlane to his office in Maputo last week. What happened to those talks? Because from what we're gathering, it feels like there was a breakdown of discussions. The negotiations didn't yield any kind of positive outcome. What can you tell us regarding that? Did the peace talks hit a dead end?
This is a theater and is entertainment. Then what we see is that there's no interest from the President Nyusi. As you know, President Nyusi is also a president of Frelimo ruling party, the party that is ruling Mozambique since 1975, when Mozambique got the independence from the regime of Portugal. So President Nyusi, as a president of Frelimo ruling party, is interested in the result that was announced by the CNN, is the board that they manage the election here in Mozambique. So what we see in this call for President Nyusi for the dialogue is that he was taking time, was giving time for the Constitutional Council to validate and proclamate the result. Why I'm saying this? As you know, Venancio Mondlane is not here in Mozambique. Why is not here? He abandoned Mozambique because he was facing threat. So he decided to leave Mozambique. After he left Mozambique, the judiciary started to move a process against Venancio Mondlane. We have two processes: a criminal process and also a civil process. And the day President Nyusi called all the candidates, namely Venancio Mondlane, Osufu Momadi, Lutero Simango, and Daniel Chapo, Venancio Mondlane sent a letter for the president saying two things that they can highlight. The one is that he is not confident to be in Mozambique because he is running a risk to be detained because the process that the state are moving against him. But he gave a window for President Nyusi to show him that he is able and he is interested in a dialogue to find ways to solve the problems that we are living in Mozambique. What he said is that President Nyusi, as it's impossible for me to be in person or in presence in this dialogue, please allow me to be in a virtual way, as what we are doing now. You are in Johannesburg, but now I am in Mozambique, but we are talking. So what Venancio Mondlane said is that, President, please allow me to be part of the dialogue by virtual way. But what we see is that the office of the president didn't give an answer for the letter sent by Venancio Mondlane. And at the day of the meeting, only Chapo, the Frelimo candidate, Osufu Momadi, Renam candidate, and the Lutero Simango MDM candidate joined the meeting. They said, Mr. President, there's no condition for us to start the dialogue because we don't have Venancio Mondlane. And Venancio Mondlane is the one that is calling the demonstration, and is the one that is claiming that he won the election, and the party that support him, that is called Podemos, also won the election. So, Mr. President, there's no condition. So, we believe that this is a theater, this is entertainment, because the president didn't give an opportunity for Venancio Mondlane to be part of the dialogue. And what we feel is that this is an instrument that the President Nyusi was trying to use in order to have time until the Constitutional Council validate the result that now are benefiting the Frelimo ruling party, that is the party that the Philip Nyusi is also president.
Andre, I want to touch a bit on, I think after that deadlock and breakdown in talks, we saw Mondlane calling for, another wave of new strikes, which ultimately led to crowds invading the local Frelimo headquarters. And what they found there was quite amazing. Can you break down that moment for us, about that invading of the local Frelimo office, and some of the things that were allegedly found in the office, which might have influenced the elections?
The point here is this. Venancio Mondlane didn't order the demonstrators to break down the headquarters of Frelimo. He didn't do that. What he said is, in the live he did, I think it was on Monday, is to recommend the headquarters of Frelimo to not to open. But was not only for Frelimo. He said to another institution, such as institution that manage, or the board that manage the election. What is going on now with the demonstration is the feeling that the Frelimo ruling party is not interested to sit and find a way to solve the problem. And most importantly is that the institution, mainly the Constitutional Council, are not giving a light, or not giving the signal that they are going to respect the will of the people that was manifested in the day of the election. So what the people, but also those act of breaking down the headquarters of Frelimo and also the police station is because the way that the police also are responding the demonstration. It seems that it is a response that the demonstrator found to defend themselves and to show their, how can I say, their that they are not happy with what is happening here. We can count at least 3 or 4 headquarters of Frelimo broke down yesterday. But the contest here, just to help the audience to understand it, is because the people now have the understand that Frelimo ruling party that captured the institution are not interested in respecting the will of the people. So about the attacks on the police station, the sense that the people have is that we are responding the violence that the police are giving us when we come out to the street to demonstrate peacefully and disarmed in disarmed ways.
I want to touch a bit on, I don't know if I can call it a way forward or an intervention of some sort. Mondlane has called for increased international pressure on Frelimo. What role do you think regional bodies like SADC or the African Union can play in resolving this crisis? Are there any signs that the international community is taking notice, and also planning to act on some of the human rights violations that we're seeing in Mozambique? What can you tell us on that front?
What we are defending as a CDD organization that are dealing with democracy and human rights is that we have to sit down as Mozambicans, as citizens, with dialogue. We have to use dialogue to solve our problem, and the international community is very important on this because, as you know, we have 16 years of civil war in Mozambique, but it ends with an agreement called the agreement peace. signed in 1992 between Renami former rebel movement and the Frelimo ruling party, and the international community played an important role in these negotiations that ended with the agreement in 1992. So the role that we think that the international community can play is also helping to find ways to put the Mozambicans together, to find ways, because as we know, we are independent since 1975 as a state, and no one can impose anything. What the international community can do is to advise and is to address forms to convince the Mozambicans that are now in this situation, to sit down and find ways to solve the problem. But what we advocate for is the dialogue. But this dialogue cannot be only between the leaders, the political leaders, and the respective parties. This can be a genuine, but also can be another actors to this dialogue, such as academia, civil society organizations, religious leaders, because we have experience with the peace agreement signed in 1992. What the part of the problems that we have today is because political issues in Mozambique has been treated between Frelimo ruling party and the Renamo former rebel movement. It's allowed because of this way of dealing with the issues in Mozambique. We have the state seen by Renamo and Frelimo, and this is bad because the agreements and the arrangements that they have after every post election conflict, because here in Mozambique, after all the elections, we have a post-election conflict. So the arrangements that the Frelimo and Renamo did during the 30 years of our democracy are not the arrangement or agreements that benefited the democracy and the citizens. Are agreements that benefited only Renamo and the Frelimo, and we don't want to repeat this kind of situation. And now what we advocate is a genuine dialogue that is also inclusive dialogue, and again the international community will play a very important role advising and addressing ways to help Mozambique to pass this bad moment that we live in, that is the non-precedent crisis of a political crisis and also a human right crisis.
I think you speak of, Mozambique passing through this moment and getting over this moment. But in literal terms, what would a plausible solution be? Would a plausible solution be a recount of the votes, going back to the elections, or just handing over power to Mondlane and his political party? What do you see as a plausible way forward right now that can be aimed at and is possible to attain?
The most important thing here is dialogue. Even if we decide that we have to repeat the elections or we have to recount the votes, this decision must come through the dialogue. We must sit and decide that the good way to solve this problem is by repeating the election. And how are we going to repeat the election? How long are we going to take to repeat the election? What is necessary? It's necessary to review the legal framework. It's necessary to change the way that the institutions are working. As I said, now the institutions are organized accordingly to Renamo and the Frelimo will. So if we understand that we have to repeat the election, it's necessary to change a lot of things because the frameworks, how it's designed, the legal framework, how it's designed, the institution, how it works, as I said, are captured, are working in order to benefit for the ruling part. So if we decide to repeat the election, it's necessary also to change everything, to change the legal framework, to change the way that the institutions are organized and are working. So what's important here is to have a dialogue. We have to see it. About the recounting vote, I think it's very difficult mission, and maybe I can't consider it an impossible mission because what we see here in Mozambique is that we have a regular bulletin that are introduced in the basket of votes, but also we have another ballots that are not regular ballots. So in the time of recounting the ballots, who will able to see that this is irregular and this is irregular? So I think that the recounting vote is not a way to solve this problem. But what we see here in Mozambique now, according to the demonstration, that the demonstration began in Maputo, Manica, and Nampula. But now is spreading to the country. We have now demonstration in Gaza. We have demonstration in Nyembani, and we have demonstration in Sofala and in Zambezia. And if we believe that if the constitutional council validate the results that is giving the veto for Frelimo ruling party, the demonstration are going to escalate. We are going to see another level of demonstration because what the people say now is that they need electoral justice. They need to see their will respected. What the people, the citizens say is that they need their will respected. They are not talking about the dialogue. Dialogue is how can I say, is an alternative to solve the problem. But what Fenasio Monlan and Podemos say, and the citizens that are demonstrating in the street is that they need the electoral justice. If we put it aside, also really we have to consider a dialogue, and will be through the dialogue that we are going to decide if we repeat elections and how long it is going to take, and what will be the way that the state will be managed, because as you know, the government of Filipe Nyusi is going to end at the 15 January, and he can't continue in power. So how are we going to manage the state during the period that we are going to prepare the next election? So dialogue is the way. We can do anything else without the dialogue. We can control the dialogue. We have to put the dialogue first, because is through the dialogue that we are going to see how we can solve the problems that we are involved with now in Mozambique.
All right, Andre Mulungo coming to us live from Maputo out in Mozambique. We're going to leave it here for now. Ciao and obrigado for giving us your time. It's been a really insightful conversation.
Thank you.
There you go, Andre Mulunga, official at Center for Democracy and Human Rights, just giving us the latest out in Mozambique, where a crackdown on post-election violence on the citizens has left many dead. The country is literally on a brink of a full-scale collapse, and there isn't really much that has been happening. There's no action from SADC. South Africa is quiet, and the African Union also not holding the Mozambican government into responsible for all of the transgressions that they are committed against the people of Mozambique. But one thing that was really interesting that's coming out of Mozambique is the fact that while Mondlane called for a fresh wave of protests. This is after a dead end in those negotiations with the president Nyusi. A crowd invaded Frelimo headquarters in Moechate, Nampula province, Frelimo being the governing party, well, the current governing party of Mozambique, who have claimed and say they've won the recent elections. Well, the crowd invaded their Frelimo headquarters in Moechate, Nampula province, and found hundreds of voter cards, many in old computer cases, which they then scattered on the streets. The people of Moechate, almost 60 kilometers from Nampula city, on Wednesday invaded and vandalized the Frelimo District Committee premises, where they found in the office of the first secretary hundreds of voter cards. And this has been a report by Club of Mozambique Online and other, credible sources. The voter cards were allegedly stored in ordinary boxes and also inside the defunct computer cases. There's been various social media videos that are showing youngsters throwing, those boxes in the middle of the streets and showing those voter cards scattered all around. So yeah, it's been quite an eventful few months in Mozambique, and it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen from here. Is South Africa or the SADC region going to act appropriately? Is the African Union going to come out to call for calm? And are we possibly going to see a recount of votes in Mozambique, or will they be going back to the polls, the people voting again, having a fresh elections? Or are we going to see something which is very, very unlikely to happen, which is Frelimo there, saying, well, we admit we cheated the elections and we're going to relinquish power. I doubt that might be the outcome there. But yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting story to see. Mozambique is very, very close to South Africa, and what happens on their borders will ultimately affect us. We saw when the border gates were closed, there wasn't trade happening between the two countries. Trucks delivering goods couldn't pass in the border. So yeah, it's one story that I feel like as South Africa we need to keep a close eye on, because hey, we all know what happened during the Arab Spring. Things like this have a tendency to spread throughout the region if they're not acted upon appropriately. I'm sure you've seen the videos all over social media where protesters in Mozambique are literally being shot with live ammunition. They're protesting on the streets. You have literally army tanks just driving through them and killing and injuring, many of course being women and children. So yeah, really upsetting images, but really concerning turn of events in Mozambique. We're going to leave it here for now. We'll be back again for another edition of Salam Media Highlights with myself, Salailo, but it's goodbye for now.